All right, today we're jumping in our time machine and heading back more than 4,000 years to the banks of the Indus River. We're going to explore a civilization that built some of the most advanced cities in the ancient world. These people were masters of engineering and global trade, and yet they left behind this profound, almost deafening silence. So let's dive into the incredible mystery of the Indus Valley metropolis. And that, right there, is the central problem, the big question mark hanging over the entire Indus Valley civilization. You see, their script, which we found on thousands of different artifacts, is completely undeciphered. Nobody can read it. So without their words, archaeologists have had to become detectives, piecing together their story from the clues they left behind, their cities, their workshops, and their art. And honestly, the first piece of evidence is just staggering. We're talking long before the Romans were even a thought. The Indus people, or Harappans as they're also known, were absolute masters of urban planning. Their cities weren't just chaotic collections of buildings that grew over time. No, they were blueprints, meticulously designed for a highly organized society. The level of control and foresight this implies is just incredible. You've got cities split into two parts, a citadel, probably for rulers or big public ceremonies, and then a lower town for everyone else. They built everything on these massive brick platforms to deal with floods, which were a constant threat. And get this, for centuries, the street width stayed exactly the same. That means no one was allowed to just build out into the public way. This all points to some kind of powerful central authority, a level of civic discipline that was just unheard of for its time. But maybe their most brilliant achievement, the thing that really sets them apart, was hidden underground. In cities like Mohenjo-daro and Lothal, archaeologists found what is basically the world's first urban sanitation system. And we're not just talking about a simple ditch here. This was a complex, city-wide network for managing wastewater. It's just wild. This system itself is so logical, it's almost modern. Okay, so wastewater from private bathrooms would flow through pipes built right into the house walls. From there, it went into covered drains that line the streets. But here's the really smart part. They didn't just let everything flow together and clog up the system. They built traps and cesspools to catch the solid waste, which allowed the water to keep flowing. They had figured out a way to separate solid and liquid waste, a fundamental principle of sanitation today. It kept their cities remarkably clean.
And this little detail shows us that the system was actively maintained. Archaeologists kept finding these little heaps of greenish-gray sand right next to the drains. What was it? It was the gunk that ancient municipal workers had cleaned out of the system. It's one thing to build something that's advanced. It's a whole other thing to keep it running for centuries. This is pretty much proof of a functioning public works department in the Bronze Age.
So the Indus Valley's incredible engineering wasn't just for keeping things clean at home. Their cities were also powerful engines of commerce that connected them to the wider world. Let's zoom in on one city, Lothal, which was a major port and a key hub in this ancient global marketplace. Lothal, which is in modern-day Gujarat, India, was in the perfect spot. It had easy access to the Arabian Sea, which basically acted like a highway, connecting the rich resources of the Indus Valley to all these distant civilizations. It became this thriving center for making and exporting luxury goods that people wanted thousands of miles away. But right at the heart of Lothal, there's a huge debate. Archaeologists dug up this massive brick-lined basin. The big question is, was it the world's earliest dock, like its discoverers claimed? The evidence for it's pretty strong. They found marine microfossils in there, which suggests seawater. But the skeptics push back. They argue it might have just been a simple irrigation tank, maybe too small for big ocean-going ships. It's a perfect reminder that history is a living thing, a field of constant debate, all based on piecing together the clues. Dock or not, we know for a fact that Lothal was an absolute commercial powerhouse. You had raw materials like copper and beautiful semi-precious stones coming in, and what went out? Gorgeous finished goods like beads, ivory, and shells. And we have concrete proof of this trade. For example, a distinctive circular button seal, the kind they used in the Persian Gulf, was found right there in Lothal. That's a direct link connecting this town to the great powers in Mesopotamia. So, we've seen their amazing cities and their vast trade networks, but what about the people themselves? Who were they? Well, for that, we have to turn from brick and stone to simple clay. The Harappans left behind thousands of these mysterious terracotta figurines, and they give us our most intimate and, our most puzzling glimpse into their culture. Get ready for this number, an astonishing 8,500
Fragments of human figurines have been discovered at Indus Valley sites since excavations began. Just think about that for a second. These weren't some rare ceremonial objects locked away somewhere. They seem to have been a really common part of everyday life. And yet, here's the real head-scratcher. For all their abundance, we have absolutely no idea what they were for. Were they toys for children? Ritual objects for worship? Were they portraits of actual people? The fact that there are so many of them, combined with a complete lack of any explanation, is one of the biggest riddles of the Indus Valley. What's really fascinating is you can actually watch their culture evolve through this art. The earliest figures from way back around 7000 BCE are super simple, usually seated. But fast forward to the peak of the civilization, and the style has totally changed. The figures are now standing, they're way more detailed, and they're rocking these incredible, elaborate fan-shaped headdresses. The artistry just feels so personal, you know? Unlike other artifacts that were often made in molds, every single one of these figurines was modeled by hand. An artist pinched the clay to make a nose, or used applique, which is just sticking on extra bits of clay for the eyes and jewelry. But here's the oddest detail of all. Most of them have flat backs and can't stand up on their own. This suggests they were probably meant to be held, or maybe laid down or leaned against something, pointing to a very specific hands-on purpose that we can only guess at. And this brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? We have the meticulously planned cities, the global trade routes, and thousands of these personal, handmade little figures. But it all leads back to the one thing we're desperately missing: their voice. And that's the great paradox of the Indus Valley. We know what they did, we can see their incredible engineering, we can see their beautiful artistry, but we don't know why. We don't have access to their language, their beliefs, their social structure, or even what they called themselves. The tangible evidence is overwhelming, but our intangible understanding, it's almost a complete blank. This right here, this is the key that could unlock everything. Over 400 unique symbols used for centuries across a vast civilization, and yet, to this day, no one can read it. It's one of the greatest linguistic challenges in all of history. Cracking this code would be like finally turning on the lights in a dark room that you know is just filled with treasure. So that's the thought I want to leave you with. If we could finally read their words, what would we learn? Would these little clay figures tell us stories about their gods, about their ancestors, or maybe just about children's games? The answers are right there, locked away in those symbols, just waiting for the day this silent civilization can finally speak to us.